So, welcome to another episode of Mail Unleashed, which is brought to you by Market Reach, who are the great evangelists for the mail medium. And I'm delighted to be joined today by Jo McClintock, who's, I think, VP of Marketing and Brand for Trainline, as it's now called. Not the Trainline, for anybody who wants to buy a ticket, just Trainline. And you've had a fantastic career. I think talk us through it, because you started at Screwfix, so you've also been at Moonpig. So your career has actually been involved in either postal or catalogue businesses to an extraordinary extent. How did you first get into marketing, actually?
It was at Screwfix.
It was at Screwfix.
And ultimately, that was a direct mail business in terms of its marketing. We basically spent out about 25 million catalogues every year to tradesmen across the UK and DIYers. And my job was to figure out who to send it to. I mean, it was my early 20s, so that's a long time ago now. I think it was like 5 years. And it was my first start in marketing. I remember the CEO said to me, okay, we're going to take you out of logistics, which I was doing some work in, and we're going to put you in marketing, and you're going to figure out how to do the segmentation of our catalogue.
Whoa.
And I was like, what is segmentation? Had no idea.
Do you have a maths background at all?
Not at all,
no.
Absolutely not. So, I'm generally someone who's pretty good at solving complex problems and getting to a simple answer. So it was an amazing bedrock, effectively, for my career going forward, to think about customers, who they were, what they were worth, and ultimately what you should do to grow the business from that knowledge and understanding. So, and for us, direct mail was the channel. It was the most important channel to our growth.
So interesting. So the mailed catalogue, effectively at that time, without that catalogue, you had no... it is a retail business for people who don't know a lot about DIY. So you can either order things for, in some cases, in same-day delivery, if I'm right.
Yes, absolutely. Well, back when I was there, so it was again a long time ago, we just started the retail business. So I remember the headquarters is in Yeovil in Somerset, and I'm from Somerset.
Oh, brilliant.
So ultimately, that we had this one shop that was attached to the side of the warehouse, and the queues were enormous. And so you used to think, well, there's clearly something in this,
okay.
Right? And ultimately, we kind of went on a journey where it was like opened 7 stores, then another 8 stores, and then another 10 stores. And I think the interesting fact here is that, the customer problem we were solving, the guys that plan, the guys that don't plan, the retail operation solves for one, and the direct mail business solved for the other. And that was what drove huge incremental growth for Screwfix.
So there was a chunk of people who would effectively plan out the job, and everything would arrive by mail order at the address at the appointed time. And there was another group who either had failed to plan entirely or had forgotten something fundamentally.
And that market was with like the trade merchants on the trading estate. And so for Screwfix, it was like, well, there's billions in that market that we couldn't access. And ultimately, it was because of tradesmen, purely their operating habits with planning jobs, etc. They always forgot something.
And they started a mail. This is an extraordinary thing, which is the power, of course, that mail enabled these businesses to scale.
Yep.
From often, unlikely locations.
Yeah, it was literally, it was screws. It was a one-page catalogue. It was started in someone's back garden.
Okay.
And then it turned into sort of 3 or 4 pages and a direct mail business and a telephone business. And then it grew and grew and grew from there, which is, obviously it's a hugely successful brand today. And it's international now as well.
Did you go straight from Screwfix to Moonpig?
Yes, joined Moonpig, which was, again, is a fabulous business. So Moonpig is obviously a online card and gifting retailer.
Yes, fantastic business.
And when I joined, it was going through, it's like, where are we taking this? Where's the next phase of growth? And for me, my job was to come in and give the brand some more meaning, to effectively move us from a card business to be seen as a gifting business, so people to buy more through Moonpig.
And it started in the UK, didn't it? Is that right? Yes, it did.
A chap called Nick Jenkins.
I've got to ask, why is it called Moonpig? It's one of those things where you no longer need to explain. We all know what Moonpig means.
That was his nickname at school. Yes, he was called Moonpig. So
I would ask why. Okay. And so he just took his school nickname, and his idea was effectively highly personalised gifting.
Yeah. He was a bit of a joker.
Yeah.
And he ultimately he didn't quite find the perfect card to send his friend for his birthday. And that was kind of what triggered the idea that maybe you could be a bit more personal when you're giving or gifting to people. And I think, and that's obviously the whole basis was around personalised cards. And I think the most wonderful thing, and think about direct mail in Moonpig, is that people keep cards.
Yes.
I don't know, have you got many cards you've kept?
Yeah, keep them. Yeah, I mean, my wife's more assiduous than I am, but yeah, yeah.
So of all the mail you receive, it's pretty unlikely for you to keep anything but something that's super meaningful that someone sent you, that's either highly personalised or they've written a note in it. And that was the real beauty of working with a product that people, kept, and it was in a box in a drawer or under their bed or something along those lines.
And actually, of course, the personalisation just adds hugely to the value. So the capability of something that's been personalised to you. Yeah.
So
perfect.
Then you develop the most extensive range for those close relationships.
Of course.
Cards, gifts, and then a UX and a product that actually brings that to life in the way that people want to give. And then ultimately, when it goes out to customers, when it lands on the doorstep, that moment where you pick up the letter and the card, that what you sent that individual is the most personal thing it can possibly be and the most special moment. So that for me was like a real beautiful direct mail moment, that we knew that everything we did around the product, the customer, and what landed on the doorstep was actually the most perfect gifting moment.
But you also had a very interesting ambition, I suppose, in that when you've reached a customer and they have effectively a circle of 5 to 10 people to whom they're sending, then you can reasonably assume you've reached a ceiling. Maybe you can extend it a little bit further.
Yes.
But in a sense then the whole idea is it moves on to the next person through a kind of network dynamic.
Yeah, absolutely. And we did that through reminders. So ultimately within the product of the app, you can set reminders for people's birthday.
Yeah.
And that really drove that sticky flywheel of people coming back because you keep reminding them and offering them discounts, etc. And the other key part of the flywheel was on every single card that went out that landed on your doorstep.
Of course.
We'd offer them the ability to send a free thank you card. So there would be always a note that says, if you want to re-gift or resend a beautiful note to say thank you for this,
and
you can do it for free.
That, of course, you acquired a new customer. It's very similar. Hotmail, of course, famously grew, didn't it?
Absolutely.
They simply put a little line at the bottom of every single email, and I think they reached 80 million people with no marketing or something.
Yes, it was obviously it's a physical business that's ultimately you're getting something through the letter, some direct mail or a gift, but it's also highly digital, and that was the beauty of Moonpig. That's why it's done so well, and it will continue to do extremely well as people the business understands what people are willing to pay for gifts, or how far they're willing to go, or how personal.
It's a funny thing because I always make this point that nobody would invite someone to their wedding by email, or you might do, but then people would assume it's a cash bar, so they wouldn't come. And similarly, people do send me digital birthday cards, but there's an element of come on.
You didn't try very hard.
Yeah. I mean, and actually, I've always wondered whether Amazon has a problem in gifting, precisely because it looks a bit lazy.
Do you know what? That's so funny you say that. We actually surveyed effort versus relationship. So we actually looked at what effort you would go to versus different people in your life. I do think there is, within the kind of marketing mix, as it were, when I look at sustainability and I look at at the end of the day, you're trying to change habits, trying to move people around. We've got to try everything. And direct mail absolutely is part of that repertoire, because as we've talked about, it's something usually that sticks around.
It sticks around,
on the tabletop or somewhere in the home, and it's a constant thing that you might look at or come across. So for me, when it comes to sustainability, you're in the job of changing habits for travel. So it's whatever medium does the best job in doing that. So it could absolutely be a successful part of the marketing mix.
Bringing your Moonpig experience to the fore, do you have any plans to actually bring Trainline? Because I think there's a very, very strong cultural thing, which, as you said, I think derives from Google, which is it's not only digital first, it's digital only in many cases. And actually one of my great triumphs was persuading Google to launch something by direct mail, which and my argument was it's the kind of decision which requires some solid material thing that will stick around, that gives them time to think. And would it be worth testing, for example, door drops or mailings particularly in areas of the UK where rail use is really low?
I think, as you said, I think for digital brands, quite often they grow up with Google. So you're in this default mindset where digital channels are likely your first port of call, or more physical channels like out of home, for example. I think the interesting thing you could look at when it comes to a digital first business is hypotheses around really tricky customers or really tricky scenarios.
So one thing I've noticed is there's this belief that, for example, digital, because it's more efficient, has to be more effective, which I don't think is always true. And there's also this belief that paper is somehow environmentally less sustainable than anything digital, whereas it's, it's not as if server farms are necessarily, carbon neutral. But I mean, interestingly, I think Argos largely got rid of the catalogue for environmental reasons. And the problem is actually, if you look at it in reality, paper's nearly all produced from renewable sources, better known as trees. It's generally trees that are grown for the purpose of turning into paper. And I think it's also, direct mail is the most recycled medium. In other words, nearly everybody does the right thing with it, and it does end up being recycled, which isn't true of plastic bottles, for example, even though they're recyclable. Where they end up is anybody's guess.
Yeah.
And so there is, I think, you're absolutely right in saying that if you've grown up as a digital business with Google, you're in danger of defining your target audience, in a sense, not by where your potential audience could be, but simply by trying to amplify the audience that digital has already given you. And so you'd see probably direct mail as an opportunity to branch out and reach people who fundamentally, the parts that digital doesn't reach, in a sense.
So I think direct mail not necessarily looks at new audiences, potentially. I think most audiences are in a digital ecosystem of some way, shape or form. I think what direct mail can do, potentially, depending on your objective, is attack a problem or come at a problem in a different way. So maybe it's something that actually drives up consideration more because it's something that sits in your home. It's something you review. It's something you might just kind of actually browse through. I think it's a different medium in which to reach the same audiences. And I guess, again, from somebody who's in digital, it's about testing some hypotheses around how that might help your objectives, as an example.
And I suppose in the case of the season ticket problem, it can be timely.
Absolutely.
So you can reach someone at exactly the right moment.
Yes, exactly.
And so I always think that there are two questions and add answers, one of which is why us, and the other one is why now?
Yes.
And actually direct mail seems to answer that why now question really well, because it arrives as a one-off high impact communication.
Yeah. And I also think, to your point around sustainability angle, I think, again, you can easily discount direct mail because of preconceptions over paper and ultimately and all of that. But again, if you have an objective like we have around trying to drive people out of cars and planes, which are about 70% more polluting,
of course,
if direct mail does a better job at doing that, why wouldn't you do it? And ultimately, net, it's going to be far better at improving carbon emissions impact than being concerned about the impact from paper on somebody's doormat. Well, Jo, it's been absolutely fantastic having you here. It's been absolutely wonderful to have you on the podcast. So anyway, this has been Mail Unleashed, brought to you by Market Reach, who are the great evangelists for mail use and use of the mail medium. It's been a huge pleasure to have Jo on the show. And if you've enjoyed this, you can find plenty more episodes by visiting marketreach.co.uk. Here's till next time. Thank you very much indeed.